Hi, Alison Zamuda here, and I'm here with the fabulous Silvia Tolisano, who is an author and a consultant extraordinaire, working with schools all around the world. And Silvia just introduced me to a brand new idea that's so connected and synergistic with the student-generated aspect of personalized learning. So I would love to turn it over to Silvia to explain to the learning community members on what that is.
So this whole thing got started. I'm very interested in documenting learning. Always was. It was just as a kid, even writing a diary. So it was documenting my growth, and from what was out there, it was mainly pedagogical documentation, it was strategies of how to use documenting for the learning of students. And since I've been blogging for over 10 years, I know that documenting helps my own learning, and it motivates me to continue. It helps me see where I've been. It helps me know what I have to do to grow. And then I came across the term, which is also something I did not know. I didn't even know how to pronounce it. Pedagogy, which is the science for self-directed and self-motivated learning. And once I looked into that, I knew that there was just a small step to go from pedagogical documentation helping students learn, to eudagogical documentation, where documentation helps your own learning. And it is definitely something that is not just reserved for early learning. It's not reserved for students, but it is for anybody who's a lifelong learner. So that pretty much became the foundation of my new book that I co-wrote with Janet Hale on documenting learning, which will be out in January.
Fabulous. Yeah, and we'll make a plug of that underneath the video feed. But I also think it's super important to think about when we're putting students at the center or teachers at the center of their own professional development learning, what does it mean to be in that learner-generated space? And I think as I'm continuing to connect and collaborate with Silvia, the significance of teaching kids and adults the skills of documenting their own learning is absolutely extraordinary. So tune in. Hopefully there'll be more collaborative moments with Silvia. And again, some of the highlights and aspects of her book that's coming out in January. Definitely it's going to be a must-read. But at the same time, continuing to play out what does it mean to document your own learning? Because there is a little bit of not just understanding the language of what that means, but also to start building fluency. And potentially, I'm thinking about the conversation that Silvia and I just had. She shared an example of her own daughter, and it would be lovely if she could just do a quick rendition of that as well, to start seeing that this is not something that's reserved only for the older kids or the adults, but young learners can engage in this.
So it's my granddaughter who's just learning how to swim, or was learning, now she finally knows. And the whole idea of, I took a GoPro, an underwater camera, to be able to capture moments of her progressing in her skills as she was developing as a swimmer. And the interesting thing is, as a 4-year-old, she was already looking forward to, as we were done with the pool and we were going home, that she wanted to look at the videos, that she wanted to see how under the water it looked like. And in that case, that's when we use technology to capture something that the eye can capture at that moment.
Right.
It's able. You can slow it down. You can freeze it. You can connect it to something. The moment in life is gone, while a video taken is something that you can connect, and then being able to actually visualize growth over time.
Absolutely. And again, this potentially is as powerful for an example of swimming like Silvia just elaborated on as it is for writing. And so I think as you're continuing to play out ideas and designs to imagine new kinds of learning experiences for students, we're also trying to be metacognitive about what it is that we're starting to move through in our own thought process, starting to play out the habit of metacognition. So what am I thinking about as I'm starting to shift into this moment and potentially
and
the impact
not just
that it has.
thinking about it, but being able and having the skills to make it visible.
Yes.
Because that's a big step from having it in your head to being able to make it visible or articulate it so somebody else can learn from it as well.
And the power of actually starting to think about collecting artifacts in real time is going to be another part of the conversation and the collaboration, hopefully with Silvia, is really trying to tease out how can we begin to capture moments even when we may feel a little bit foolish or feeling just like a beginner or a novice, but to have some kind of benchmark that we can continue to play out and capture, and then the opportunity to think about the progression over time.
I think that's one of the biggest problems, especially in capturing the beginning as you are a learner, of not missing out when you did not know yet.
Yes.
Because once you know, you can never go back. So getting over that fear of capturing that you're just not good at it yet.
Yeah, and that's why there are so many brand new bloggers on Learning Personalized where they feel like I'm too early on in this journey. The beginning parts, that's really the heart of actually having an artifact. And most of the examples on Learning Personalized are starting to see not just the early renditions, but also growth over time. So thanks so much, Silvia, for hanging out with me.
Sure.
And looking forward to seeing your book in January.
Sounds good.
Take care.